Hi guys, this is Ms. Buckley, and today we're going to be talking about symbiotic relationships. The aim is how are organisms affected in the different types of symbiotic relationships? And your do now is describe and give an example of the following: heterotroph, autotroph, and decomposer. Symbiotic relationships, or symbiosis, are any close relationship between species that depend on each other for survival. And there are three main symbiotic relationships that we're going to be talking about. The first one is mutualism, indicated by a plus sign and a plus sign. The second one is commensalism, indicated by a plus sign and a zero sign. And the third one is parasitism, indicated by a plus sign and a minus sign. And if you can think for a minute, you could probably imagine what mutualism is, indicated by that plus sign and plus sign, what those signs mean, or what commensalism is, indicated by that plus and that zero. If you imagine those signs stand for organisms, right? Or what parasitism is, indicated by that plus sign and that minus sign. You can imagine maybe what these relationships might mean. Our first relationship that we're going to be talking about is mutualism, which is indicated by that plus sign and that plus sign. An example of this type of relationship is a bee and a flower. And in this relationship, everyone benefits. So for example, the bees are going to fly from flower to flower, gathering nectar, which they make into food, and that benefits the bees. When they land on a flower, the bees get some pollen on themselves, and when they land on the next flower, some of the pollen from the first flower rubs off, and that pollinates the plant. That obviously is going to benefit that plant. So in this relationship, both the bee and the plant are benefiting. The bees get to eat, and the flowering plants get to reproduce. So in mutualism, both the bee and the flower are mutually benefiting. So that's our first type of symbiotic relationship. And you can find other types of mutualism in nature if you look around. Okay, our second type of symbiotic relationship is called commensalism, indicated by that plus sign and that zero. And if you thought about it, maybe you had an idea of what those symbols meant. In this type of relationship, one benefits and one is neutral. It's not helped or hurt. Our example is clownfish and sea anemones. Anemones use their tentacles to capture shrimp, fish, and other small animals to eat. The clownfish can swim along the tentacles without being harmed, and the anemone's tentacles protect the clownfish from the predator. So in this relationship, clownfish are being protected, but the anemone is not being helped or hurt. So this is one example of commensalism that you see in nature, but you can find other examples. Our third example of symbiotic relationships is called parasitism, indicated by that plus sign and that minus sign. And in this relationship, one is benefited and the other one is harmed. And our example here is a tapeworm and a human intestine. Tapeworms are segmented flatworms that attach themselves to the insides of not only human intestines, but they can attach themselves to cow intestines, pig intestines, even dog intestines, and they get food by eating the host's partly digested food, which deprive the host of much needed nutrients. So obviously the tapeworm here is going to benefit, and the host, which in this case is the human, is going to be harmed because they're not getting those nutrients they need. This image that you see is a tapeworm in a human intestine. And this is just one example of parasitism that you can see in nature. You can find several others.